TGS is the conference where we see all the great Japanese stuff that's coming out. There's one company that never shows up.
Who is that?
Nintendo. Damn it. But maybe they didn't show up at the show, but something that they recently announced was here. It was the new 3DS, as it's actually called.
It's literally just called the new Nintendo 3DS.
Yeah, it's got a faster processor, some of the buttons are reconfigured, a little analog nub. But yeah, you actually had to play it.
I got to touch it around. So they're not here at the show, but the Monster Hunter booth, which is an insanely popular booth in Japan, of course, they were showing off the new Monster Hunter game on the new 3DS. And so I guess this is kind of the best game to show off the new features of it, specifically the analog knob. So, I mean, like the feel of the console, it felt like a thin 3DS. It was like a 3DS XL, it's a bit thinner. It had a nice glossy coat on it. And the analog is literally just, it's a nub. I mean, if you've ever used a laptop that has a little mouse nub, like a little mouse nub.
It's like a little pencil eraser.
It feels exactly the same. And so I was using that for a lot of camera controls. And it might have been the game, it might have been the actual stick, but it was a bit, not as precise as you want it to be.
Okay.
But I'm going to guess that with 3DS games, you're not going to have a precise first person.
No, and dude, the games could actually have a sensitivity control anyway.
Yeah, I guess so.
So you might be able to make it just something that works for you.
Yeah. The other thing I tried to play around with was the new L and R. And they have a secondary ZL and ZR. And so the shoulder buttons are shorter. And if you push your sort of fingers in, there are extra ones. For Monster Hunter, it seems like both of the shoulder buttons basically do the same thing.
For people who play Monster Hunter, they may have used the Circle Pad Pro, which also had those extra buttons on it.
Yeah, so that's basically going in all that shit into the unit. But I felt like they were really far away. I really had to make a concerted effort to reach over and tap it. You know? It's like not as comfortable as sitting. It's not as comfortable as saying having R1 and R2 on your PlayStation controller or your Xbox. But yeah, like, we'll see like what uses they have. But the main thing that really impressed me was the new 3D screen.
Like, yeah, I've heard it's got like a much wider gamut in terms of like, sort of like, you know, the angle that you can position it and still see the stereoscopic effect.
So yeah, I usually don't play with 3D on the 3DS like outside because, you know, I'm walking around, you know, I'm on the bus, you know, it'll just shake and, you know, the image will split like quite easily. But this was crazy. I would like test it, I'd be 3D full blast, and I'd rotate it so far out, like to the point where I could just barely see it, and it still wouldn't split.
Wow.
Yeah, I was so impressed with it. I didn't think it would be that good. The screen was glossy, it was really vibrant, but yeah, like I'm gonna be playing with 3D all the time. And
I was gonna ask,
It feels like my eyes can adjust to it a lot easier as well.
That's good.
So yeah, like that new 3DS. Some really hot stuff.